Hello and welcome everyone to Clear Before Christmas, a little workshop that I kind of felt compelled to do because of a lot of the conversations I was having with people in the workplace, having lots of leaders in my coaching sessions saying, I don't know how I'm going to make it through to the end of the year, feeling overwhelmed and oversubscribed, shall we say. So it's great to have all of you join us here and looking forward to having a conversation. And this will be a little bit of a workshopy style of conversation, shall we say. So for those of you who are watching the recording later, I'm going to be starting while people work on stuff, and then you'll get all the goods. I just wanted to check, has everyone got their little worksheet that came through? Beautiful. I'm seeing some people show it. And if not, just make sure you got a pen and paper. All right, because it's pretty simple stuff. So a pen and paper would suffice. I want to take a moment to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're all on, and that's in a whole variety of areas. I'm on Wonnarua and Darkinjung land, and I pay my respects to whatever lands you're on as well. So maybe you're starting to feel a bit of the pressure at the end of the year. Maybe you're going, I'm starting to get overwhelmed. And I wanted to do this because, as I said, I've been speaking to lots of people in my Manager to Leader Shift program, and they were saying, what do I do to keep my team motivated? Everyone's already starting to check out and go, it's Christmas already. And they're kind of worried about losing momentum on some of the things. And so I went, well, maybe we need to have a conversation about what this time of the year could actually look like. And I know for some of you, it can be a peak season at work. I know one of you here on the call, that would definitely be the case. Other people who are in like hospitality and those sorts of things, or retail, it's like a bonkers time for them. But for a lot of people that are also working in, I guess, a white collar or a workplace, it can seem like everyone goes on a bit of go slow. And I want to just think about how can I support people to feel a little more settled, a little more organized, to find some ways to keep momentum going, but also so that in the new year, we can actually launch off really strong and not feel like we've just lost a couple of months, which is essentially what happens. So I'd love, for those of you who are here, can you pop in the chat box a yes if you're already starting to feel any Christmas overload. A no if you're like, no, I'm good and I'm sorted and I feel good at this time of the year. So I'd love to know whether it's a Y or an N. Are you already starting to feel a bit of pressure? Yes. Okay, so some of you are starting to. Gotcha. Okay. Right. Well, you're in the right place. And maybe you've sort of said to yourself already, man, this was a big year. Who's already thought to themselves, this was a big year? Put a yes if that was you, or a Y. Who's had a huge year? Okay. Everyone's had a huge year. And isn't it funny how we think next year I'm not doing that again, like it's going to be different, and then here we are again doing the same thing to ourselves. And I think we often forget that we have patterns and routines and ways of doing things. And so sometimes we have to think about, could I disrupt that a little bit? Could I change that trajectory? And some of you might be also thinking, I hope next year's even better. Who's a hands up for, I want next year to be even better? Yeah, awesome. So this time I wanted to kind of cover three key things. First, I want to teach you the three mistakes that I just see leaders and teams and people making this time of year. So 3 mistakes that I see people making this time of the year. Second, I want to really look at what are 3 then simple core activities that you could do to overcome those mistakes. What are some simple things that you could introduce that could overcome those without burning out and overwhelming you even more? And then I want to share a couple of just some plug and play kind of workshop ideas. Many of you know I run lots of workshops and facilitate lots of groups and planning. And I want to share what are some ideas of things that you could talk about or do with your team to kind of keep the momentum going without it feeling like you're actually burdening them with more stuff, right? And then lastly, I want to help you just look at a little tiny, teeny plan for 2025. So we're not going to map out your entire year, but I want to make you have a little plan that helps you just go, I've got January sorted. I feel good about January, right? That I at least have some kind of thing so that I can hit the ground running. Yeah. Hands up, who's for that? Does that sound good? Okay, good. You're in the right place. Beautiful. So this will be a workshop that'll be light on teaching and heavy on actually doing things, like thinking about things, writing some notes for yourself about when have I experienced that? What am I thinking? How am I feeling? So I really want you to either have the workbook or just a blank piece of paper and a pen, or your iPad, or whatever it is that you like to use, so that you can start capturing your ideas, okay? Because it's going to be kind of really tactical, and I really want you to think about, how do I finish the year strong? Yeah, and not just kind of fizzle out and then crumble and then feel like, I won't say the word, but you know what I mean, over Christmas, where you're like, I've just flatlined, and then drag yourself into the office in the new year. And what I found, so I talked to people last night on this workshop, and there were people there that literally said the last 2 holidays that they had, that they got sick both times. So they said, as soon as I stopped work and slowed down for a moment, I got sick. And so they were saying, I feel bad because my kids didn't get time with me properly. You know, there's all these things I wanted to do, and it just feels like wasted time then. So I want you to kind of use all your juice, but go away and feel rested and come back and go, now I can get going again. So I'm just going to share my iPad. Let me just share that. And I'm just going to wait while it connects to itself. Okay. So hopefully, can you all see? Oh, no, maybe not. It doesn't. There we go. Too many tabs open, see? And isn't that what our brains are like? Too many tabs open at once. So can you see the Clear Before Christmas on the screen now? Yeah, cool. Thank you. So what we want to do is grab a little blank sheet and draw a triangle. So I'd love you to draw a triangle, and let's look at the first, or the 3 mistakes that leaders make. And so the first one that I see people make is that they go into what I would call limp mode. There tends to be this thing where we go into limp mode too early, right? Has anyone ever been in a car that's gone into limp mode? Yeah. And so you'll know what I mean. When you're in a car that goes into limp mode, it literally like limits you to about, I don't know, 30 kilometers an hour. And so it's like, no matter how hard you push your foot down on the pedal, the car kind of just rolls along in this kind of slow way. And what I find is that often in teams, people are in limp mode. They are dragging their feet. They know that they've got some annual leave coming up. They're sort of getting ready for that. And so people are like, I don't want to go on to any meetings. I don't want to sit on any committees. You know, I'm going to wait until New Year to start that project. And so what happens is people go into a kind of premature getting into holiday mode. Yeah. I call it the premature evacuation, in that people just start leaving their mind behind. They've left the building already. And it's like pulling the ripcord too early, yeah, when you're actually jumping out of the plane and in the parachute, pulling the ripcord. And so they've lost a lot of their steam, and maybe you can relate to that. And feel free to chat in the chat box if you want to share with me if any of this relates and you're like, yeah, I'm seeing this happen in my team or with myself at the moment. And so the opportunity here is to make sure that we make the most of this time of the year and still get to have a rest at Christmas, right? That we want to work up until our holidays. Because you'll find that when people are already starting to go into limp mode, often it's even happening now in November. And if not, it'll be right in December. And when you think about it, December has 4 weeks, and there's at least 3 before Christmas. And so if we're in limp mode early, we're actually not making the most of even those 3 weeks as well. And that's valuable time that you could be doing things that are useful and purposeful. And I guess it's important to remember, I'm not suggesting you push hard and burn yourself out more. I'm a huge advocate of listening to the body. And if it does need some rest, really thinking about, what do I prioritize now? But a thing that I see with teams a lot is losing this momentum. And so the limp mode happens before Christmas. And so they waste a good 3, 4, sometimes even 5 weeks going, oh, we won't start that because 2 people are already going away and all of those sorts of things. And we know that, right? It happens every year. So we could actually plan for that a little bit better. The second thing that I see people going into is just the end of year overwhelm. Yeah. Who can relate to that, right? That it's been a big year. There's a heap on the plate. And just like my dear computer here, I have too many tabs open. Yeah. So we start moving towards the end of the year with all of these tabs open, all of these projects that are open, all of these things that we haven't finished and completed. And so we start to get into overwhelm because it feels like I'm rushing towards this deadline of the end of the year and I'm not going to get it all done. Like there is no way I can get it all done. And I've just got all these open loops. And the brain cannot stand open loops, right? The brain really gets frustrated by that. So we want to start thinking about, how could I close some of those loops? Yeah. And we're going to talk more about that, because a confused mind always says no. And so if you're just looking at an overwhelm of stuff, your brain will just go, nope, shut down. Yeah. And you want to check out from it and you'll think, gosh, there's no way I can get through any of this. And what I also see in teams happening around this is when we get into that overwhelm, we tend to get a little more snappy, shall we say. And so being nice can sometimes go out the window. And staff and peers and ourselves can start getting like, no, I don't have time for that and leave me alone. And we start noticing some of those little niggly issues can really start raising their head at this time of the year. And the third one that I see people have is no clear plan. So people are heading towards the end of the year. They just don't have a launch plan for 2025. And you know what it's like, typically in the new year, we come in, if you're working in an office or from home, whatever, we tend to go, I might sort my files out and clean up stuff from last year, right? And maybe we ate too much and drank too much at Christmas or whatever, but we're kind of in a brain fog and we've gotten used to having 10 a.m. starts or long morning breakfasts and coffees with friends, right? And we come back and coming to work and having to sit at a desk and be there on time and all of that feels quite jarring. Yeah. So we start to go, oh, this is too hard coming back to work. And so while it's super important to have downtime, and I really want you to go, how do I just do that and nothing else during the new year? Then when you actually get back to work, you don't want to be spinning your wheels, because what happens is then people and teams start going 2 weeks, 3 weeks in, oh, everyone's not back yet. So we won't start on that until everyone's back on deck. And for a lot of teams, that can even be the first week of February. Yeah. And so what happens then is if we've gone in that limp mode in December or even November, and we're in that mode of, still in our dreamy state after holidays, haven't really got focus on what I'm starting in January, we can literally lose 2, even 3 months. Like that's nearly a whole quarter of the year. And so we lose a lot of productivity and a lot of opportunity. And given the rest of the world, parts of it can be kind of quieter at these times of year, it's a brilliant opportunity to actually get stuff done that you really want to get done. So I'm going to pause the recording for a tick. Okay, so great conversation. Good to hear. Lots of people rushing around with lots of deadlines and things coming at them for this time of the year. And quite a few people relate to that slow start in January, and that kind of, what am I doing again? Oh, and that going back through emails. Oh, that's right, I was meant to have done that. So we want to start thinking about our thinking, which we don't often do. We don't always think about our thinking, right? It's not something that we as humans are very good at doing. And this is a perfect time to actually think a bit about our thinking. And so here's some little ideas for you in those three kind of areas. And so going into limp mode, if we start to consider to ourselves, what do people usually believe around this time of the year? What do they believe? And what are some of the behaviors that you're starting to see? And I encourage you to pop them in the chat box. Let me know what you're seeing or what beliefs you think people have. If you believe that it's not possible to be productive at this time of the year, then it's highly likely you actually won't get much focus, right? Because the belief kind of dictates what you then see. And we could think about, what is it that you actually want to achieve by the end of the year? And I'd love you to pop that in the chat box. Is there something, a big task or a one thing that you like, if I could do this, that I would feel great that at least I got that done? And it might be, I was saying, onboarding a new employee. Maybe it's an approval of a plan. Maybe you want to go away with an empty inbox. What is it that you'd like? Okay, a plan. Great. A plan for 2025, some goals and a bit of direction. That's awesome. Thanks, Kerry. What else? What else do people want to have in place? Same thing. Okay, ditto, a plan. Yeah. And also, what kind of behaviors are you seeing? Are you starting to see people go into the limp mode a little bit, slowing down, those sorts of things? Yeah, right. A bit panicky. Okay, yeah. So a bit of that feeling of adrenaline. And plus, if we've had a big year, we've probably fried quite a bit of our adrenals. And so at this time of the year, there's also the pressure of actually Christmas. Yeah. And if you celebrate all those things that happen around that time as well. So there'll be family pressures, and sometimes that comes with emotional stuff and those sorts of things as well. In the second kind of problem that people see in the overwhelm, it's really great to start thinking about, what are some of the feelings that are holding myself and my team back, right, from getting things done at this time of the year? So maybe, what are the things that you feel are incomplete? Yeah, incomplete, like I said, those open tabs that are everywhere. And also, what are we worried about losing over the Christmas period or the holiday period? It might be, I'm worried we'll lose direction, like the team are just starting to gel and work together, and I'm worried that'll all go out the window because everyone goes away. You know, and if that happened, what would that look like, and what would that result in? So sometimes we can go down that spiral of, if we lose this momentum or if we lose our focus. I was also working yesterday with some medical researchers, and they were saying that this is a really busy time of the year for them because they work on grant money and funding, and it's a calendar year funding. And they were saying, so we're closing and finishing all of the grants we had this year and having to report on them and all the achievements and outcomes at the same time as we're applying for the new ones. And so there's this whole process of putting in proposals and applying for new grant funding. And so they were just saying they're so worried about losing momentum or not getting things approved before the end of the year, and so not having certainty for their team. And so people go away on leave worrying if they'll even have a project or work to come back to. And the other thing is this no plan. So that several of you have said is a bit of one of the things that you'd like to have in place. So starting to first think about, what are we actually talking about this time of the year? So what's the focus of our conversations? Are we all just talking about Christmas and just making it to the end? Or have we started talking to our team or to ourselves about, what do I want to achieve next year and what's my plan for next year? And so you want to start thinking about, well, how did I start previous years? And if that was a really slow boil start, then what were the challenges and hurdles to getting that working? Yeah. And what do I want to avoid so that I can make it happen better this time around? So of all of those, 1, 2, or 3 in the columns, which one do you think is the biggest focus for you? Is it 1, preventing that limp mode and the mindset around that? Are you a number 2 where it's more just dealing with the overload of getting to the end? Or do you think it's 3 where I don't have that clear enough vision plan for the future. Okay, cool. 2. Yeah. What else? What are other people? Where are you at? Is it a 1, 2, or 3? It's a 3. Yep. Awesome. And so a little kind of pop quiz. Let's do a pop quiz. If you are a person who has already started your Christmas shopping, if you're someone who's already started the Christmas shopping, or at least have the list, know what you're going to get people, all of that sort of thing, give me a 1. If you are someone who's like, I haven't even thought of Christmas and it'll probably be the week before or the day before I'll be out hitting the shops. Okay, some of you are planned and ready. That's great. Some of you, like me, are probably going to be last minute. Yep. Or I might have had thoughts about it, but I really haven't done anything in prep for it. And it's funny because years ago, I would have already bought the cards, the paper. I would have done a lot of the shopping, and I would spend weeks at night wrapping gifts and things for people because I loved it. And I used to work at David Jones gift wrap. So I used to be all over wrapping presents, and it was something that I loved, right? And now I'm like, oh, Christmas, when's that? Wow. So I think, sometimes our priorities change and our style changes. And I know for me, since my mum passed away a few years ago, Christmas just isn't quite the same because my mum was the absolute spirit of Christmas. So I was always really excited about it. And so it's a bit different now. But quite often we fall into one of those camps. And the chances are that so do your teams and the people you work with. That there'll be people who are super organized and love this time of the year. There'll be other people who are like, oh, I'm lucky to make it there. And no, I haven't done any planning. So we want to really think about that everyone is in the same boat that we're working with as well. All right. And so let's look at what are some of the actual activities that we could do to overcome this, okay, at this time. So core activity 1 is around behavior. If that was an issue in the beginning around that limp mode, then let's look at some behaviors that we could do at this time of the year. So you kind of need some activities that are going to encourage ourselves, and the people that work with us and for us to help us continue to get that momentum, right? So we actually want to inspire people at this time of the year and engage people and keep them on track, right? So this is a great time of the year to start having some celebration or planning days and looking at what are we celebrating, what have we done well, and what do we want to do more of next year. So I highly encourage that. And I think lots of teams fall into the just having Christmas parties. And while it's important to celebrate, we don't just want to be having Christmas parties and doing barefoot lawn bowls and those sorts of things that aren't also about keeping the team together and engaged and what can we do next. So it's a super valuable time to actually recommit the team to what we're here to do and to celebrate and reward and recognize what people have done well. Yeah. The second one is around beliefs. So what beliefs would support you and your team to close out the year on a high? Because wouldn't it be nice to actually finish on a high, right? And to go, that was such a great year and I'm pumped and I'm going to go and have a great rest and I'm going to be able to just forget about work. And then when I come back, I'll be ready to go again because I'll be refreshed. So think about what are some of the new beliefs you could install to actually feel really positive at this time of the year. What could you be excited about, right? And often when we can focus in and laser down and get clearer on what we can do and achieve at this time of the year, and we go hard on the things that really matter, and we also look at a plan for next year, then we can actually have quite a bit of excitement and an opportunity to get that closure, which, we all love. We love that closure on things. And so could we start installing beliefs that we can end strong and calling on the team to think about how do we pull together to close out strong? And what I often say is with teams, it could be things like could we do some different kind of ways of working? Could we trial some things? So sometimes it might be, could we trial doing everyone gets 3 hours a day of uninterrupted time? And that might be impossible in your workplace, or it might be 2 hours, and everyone gets to nominate one of their 2 hours of uninterrupted time, because I've got stuff that I want to get closure on before the end of the year. And if we all gave each other those quiet times and we blocked out our calendar and said, I'm not available for those hours, and we focused in on what we had to get done, you'd be amazed how much we get done. Because I am guessing that a lot of your days and weeks are actually just full of interruptions. Would I be right in saying that? Lots of interruptions, lots of people constantly taking us away from what it is we wanted to get done, right? So we want to think about, what are our beliefs around the end of the year, and how could I change my mindset to make this actually be super productive and fabulous, and that I get to do and tick off those things that really would make me feel like I've achieved something this year. And then environment. If you think about the first day of school, you know, when you're little and you're still in primary school, or your kids might be, and the first day of school is so exciting, right? For little kids, it's exciting. And usually they've got a new school bag and a new lunchbox, and I've got my new uniform and new, for me, it was stationery, pretty pencils to work with and whatever it might be. Yeah. Had a new hairband and all of those sorts of things. And so we get really excited about the first day of school. How often do we get that when we're going back to work, right? Do anyone get really excited like that? So I'm like, what could we do to be really excited about going back? What could we do in our environment, whether it's a home office or a work office? Could we do something nice to make the office feel fresh and new at the new year? Could it be, you know, buy yourself some new piece of clothing that's going to be your first day back thing? But also, what are the things that would really make it feel like I could walk into work and know exactly what I'm doing, and having some clarity and not feeling like now I'm trying to get back into the mode? And so that might be a one-page plan, you know, a bit of a plan for the month. It could be a preloaded month that you actually have things mapped out before you go away, of when I come back, I'm going to do these things, because we seem to go into a brain fog over Christmas and we've completely forgotten what we were doing. So really think about, how are your team feeling at this time of the year, and what could I come back with that would allow me to feel excited? You know, what would it make it exciting? Because usually, like, even if you were starting a new job, you'd be excited. There'd be a bit of nervousness, but you'd be like, ooh, starting a new job, right? And you'd get yourself ready. But when we've been in the same role for a while, or we're in that burnout phase at the end of the year, we often don't preload that. And so that's one of the things I want to kind of talk about and encourage. So let me pause. So jumping back into, what can we do at this time of the year? What could we do with our team if they're going, we've had enough, we are tired, and we don't necessarily want to beat them over the head by giving them lots more work to do. And I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting we're giving people more to do or adding more to their plate. But it is this brilliant time of the year to do some reflection and to work with people and really go, let's think about where we're at. And so on your piece of paper, you might want to draw, like I have here, 3 lines. And I've got a plus sign for one and a minus sign for the other, and then kind of in the middle is the neutral. So when you think about it, one of the good things that we can do with our team in a team meeting, you know, if you're having your regular team meetings or whatever you're doing at this time of the year, is to workshop, where do we have drift? Yeah. So this is a bit of a drift map. And if anyone's ever seen the drifters in the cars, you know, they kind of pull on their handbrake and float around everywhere. And also an aeroplane, like when it's flying to another country, will often drift off course, and it has to continually keep coming back on course. So thinking about any of your projects, any of the work that you're doing, or even people's attitudes, right? It could be, how are we going with regards to our, let's say, values? If I go, let's put, oh, it helps if I'm not on a razor. Let's do values. So let's say our values, and we could go, well, where did we start the year? How do you think we started with our values? And maybe there's something new. And so you're like, oh, we all got super clear and we were all happy with our values, those sorts of things. So maybe we started the year here. And then we had a restructure or an announcement or something happened and we dipped a bit, quite a bit. Things went downhill. And now it went back up. We were getting the team focused, but now it's getting to the end of the year. Maybe we're here again. We've dipped a bit. I don't know where yours is, but it could be even a specific project you're working on. And it could be, where did we hope to be? Like, what was our goal? Maybe our goal was up here somewhere. And we're like, where are we at now at this time of the year? Oh, maybe we're down here. So we might go, well, what's that gap? What's created that gap? Why are we drifting off where we said we would be? And so I really want you to think about, what are some of the things that you could put here? It could be just even your team culture. It could be actual deliverables that you have. So you guys were talking earlier about your monthly reports. And so the great workshop invitation here is to, in one of your meetings, have a discussion with your team, grab a flip chart or a piece of paper and actually talk about, where do we think we're at? Maybe team culture we feel like is, down here at the moment. And we might say, well, how do we drift to there? What's going wrong? And what could we do to move ourselves back up? Yeah. So we can have great conversations and we can start going, how do we want to start the new year, 2025? Where do we see these things? Do we want to set a benchmark of here to start the year and then we want to move that all up? But what does that look like for our team? So that's one workshop idea that you can do with teams at this time of the year that can be really useful, and it can be a great reflective piece about how's the year gone. If you've got a few team members, you could even allocate someone to each different project thing, and they might map it out. So they might draw their own, how do I think the year went? And then as a team, we can sit and debrief that and talk about, why do we think that? Do we agree with that? What's been our experience? So it can just be a great way of really checking in where people are at, how they think they're going, and what else could we do to stay on track? Yeah. So that's one idea. The second idea I would say is to just do a really simple traffic light process. So to literally just do with people, what should we start, stop, keep doing? Do some traffic lights and say, okay, it's the end of the year. What worked well this year? What do we want to keep doing that we're already doing that seems to work for our team? Is there anything we want to stop doing? Is there anything that you're like, this just doesn't work for our team, or it feels like we're spinning our wheels, or the output that it takes, we don't get kind of the benefit, or the input back for it? And it might be, what do we want to start doing? Is there new stuff that we want to start doing? And if that's the case, what do we have to stop in order to make room for it? So it can be a great opportunity to check in on, what's my capacity? What's our capacity as a team? How many hours are we working? What does that look like? And what could we do to start, stop, keep? So there's some ideas for how you can have some conversation with your team. And I think it's really important at the end of the year that you get opportunity to reflect in that way, and that you encourage people to reflect. And so lastly, I wanted to share with you some ideas for how you might do a little bit of a plan for 2025. And as I said before, I'm not suggesting this is a whole big year mapped out. This is not a strategic plan, and I don't want to be quoted as being that. This is just, what could I do to have something in place so that when I come back in the new year, I don't feel like I'm completely starting from a blank page again, and that I feel like I've got some momentum already, or I know what I'm going to do. So I'd love you all to get a pen and paper now and to think about this for your kind of one sheet little plan for even just your first week back at work, whether you're back on the 7th, the 14th, whether you're coming back at the end of January or whatever that looks like. This is kind of a little January jump starter, as I like to call it. And so the first one stands for, what's your keyword? And so you might want to do this now for yourself, or it might be an activity to do with your team. So what's your keyword? So this is just thinking about, do I have a keyword for the year? Have I got a theme, a focus, something that I want the year to be about? Yeah. I can remember when I first heard about having a keyword for the year, and it was this amazing guy, Dr. Jason Fox, and his keyword for the year, I remember him saying, was pirate. And I was like, pirate? And he was like, I want to be a pirate. And by that, he was like, I want to be a bit rebellious. I want to be on the edge. I want to try new things and explore and all of that. So all the year he kept checking in going, am I being a pirate? You know, like, am I being adventurous and all those sorts of things? Yours might be something like consistency or small steps, or it might be flow or ease, you know, or maybe I want to have growth. It doesn't matter what it is, but having a bit of a theme will help you know, what am I coming back into when I arrive back into the world? The 3 stands for your top 3 goals. And I say this could be for the whole year, but I like to think of it as just my top 3. Ooh, puppies, sorry. Top 3 goals for January. It is for me, because I know I just want to get some focus. Okay, Barry. So that I can start the year strong right from the get-go. And so I may not have all of my goals for the whole year yet, but I can certainly have some focus for January and know, how do I make January really productive? What do I want to achieve in that first month? So I say, have 3 goals for January. And I'll give you a moment. Even think about that now. You may not have complete clarity, but you might have some ideas. So jot down for a moment, what are some of your ideas of your top 3 goals and what they could look like for January? And then the last one is just to have the first 1 action for each of those goals. Okay? So you want 1 action for each of those goals listed down. So if my first goal was to, I guess, be more consistent in cleaning out my email inbox every day, what's my first action? And that might be at the end of day 1 to go through and file everything, sort it out, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be for you. Yeah. You just want to go, what's the 1 key action that I can take for each of those 3? So take a moment now, if you've written some goals, to write down what could be my first action. And think small and specific, a really tangible, specific action. I know I spoke to someone yesterday and they have a team that's around the state. And so they want to have more connection, was their word, next year. They wanted to have some more connection with their team. And so of their top 3 goals, one of them was that they wanted to set up a time to catch up with everyone monthly, to actually travel to a spot, have a lot of people come in and meet with people. And so their first action was around creating that schedule, yeah, and timelining it. So maybe you might want to do something like that too. And my encouragement here is to go and put that in your calendar now. So if you know what day you're coming back to work, hopefully you all know what day you return or you start your year, go and open your calendar and whatever you use and diarize it now. So for that first day, put that first action, or day 2, put the second action, whatever it needs to look like, but actually block out time and put it in your calendar now. So when you arrive in January, you open your calendar and you're like, oh, I've already got a task for myself, right? I've already got some degree of focus there. So go and pop that in your calendar. And then however you do your calendar, maybe you like to use your Outlook calendar or your Apple iPhone calendar or whatever it is you actually use. What I find really useful, and I actually just did it with my team 2 weeks ago, I think, because I was already starting to spin a little bit towards the end of the year. And so I went, right, we need to plan for next year and get focused now, is I just get a big flip chart, but you can get great stationery from Officeworks, right? You can get those big wall maps of the year and things like that. This is a great thing to do either at home yourself for your own work and your own life, or you might want to do it with your team around things as well. And otherwise, I just get a big flip chart. We use lots of Post-it notes. So we just get Post-it notes and everyone writes down all the things that they want to achieve and what they want to do and some of the projects that they're working on and tasks, and we write those on Post-it notes so that we can stick them on and stick them off and move them around and go, ooh, would that fit there better? Or look, we've got 3 major projects all at once with all of our deadlines crossing over. That's going to be a real nightmare. Okay, so what do we need to do? Could we have all hands on deck for that? Or do we need to ask permission to move those around? Those sorts of things. But what I will then do is, so I'll just literally create it like a calendar. And so I just put boxes on the page, right, with all the months. All right. And then I think one of the important things is to go, what holidays am I going to take, right? And to think about, when are my breaks? So, and also, what's my rhythm? How do I work best? What's my natural flow and rhythm? For me, I trialed last year, I tried doing 3 weeks on, 1 week off. As in, I would do 3 weeks of intensive work and I would go out and do workshops, and I travel a lot to go and work with teams and those sorts of things. And then the last week of every month, I'd say, no, that's at home time. Like, I can do my Zooms and meetings, but I'm not going to travel and have crazy schedule, and I'm not going to launch anything or do anything big. So I tried 3 weeks on, 1 week off and did that. But what I found is I didn't get enough momentum on some of my projects in the 3 weeks. And so I always ended up doing intense work in the 4th week anyway. You know, it was just how it flowed. And so what I found, and it's worked for me in the last 6 months, and I'm going to continue into 2025, is I'm going to do kind of 3 months on, where I go, that's more intense work. And then I go, this is my downtime work. And so I'm going to do that as a pattern for my year, right? Where my red is more intensive. The red is when I have programs on and lots of group calls and things like that, going out to workshops. And so I know I have kind of these 3 months where it's less intense. If I want to take holidays, I am going to schedule them there, although I do have some time. I'm going away here to Mexico next year. So I've already got that mapped out and scheduled in, right? Makes sense, so that you kind of know. And so in that way, I know where my peaks and troughs, that's peak work. You know, I know that that might be a bit intensive, but the green areas is where I can regroup and gather some of my energy again. Yeah. And so maybe you could work out something like that with your team. It's whatever works for you. All of you will have different seasons and work. It also is really important to know our own flow and our energy. But I've found that really helps our team have kind of focus, and to know that we need to have everything ready, because those intense months are a little bit more. I might need to ask for more support. You know, you might need to say, we do need to pull together as a team here, and then maybe we can have downtime. Or you might be in the lean management style, they do kind of 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, things like that. But literally map out the year, put in, you know, each person's holidays, plan that out. And then that can help you see as a team, maybe everyone's got holidays at the same time that cross over, right? And you're like, ooh, we've got a real problem here. Like, how are we going to get our stuff done when that's going to happen? Is there things we can let go of, or do we need to plan that better? But it helps you really think about, what do I want to experience? How do I want to feel? What emotions do I want to experience throughout the year? And how can I stay motivated and excited and not like I'm just in Groundhog Day where everything's hard and all I'm doing is working all year round? Yeah. So I will stop the recording for a minute. And so thank you all for spending time. Great to have a conversation about what you're planning to do by the end of the year. I will see everyone again really soon. I hope you have a wonderful time as the year ends. I hope you really go away and enjoy. It was great to hear that people are going to schedule a preliminary planning session before the end of the year. Some of you are going to find your word for the year. That's great and really exciting. Some of you are going to buy some new stuff. Yeah, some new stationery. Officeworks might get a hit at this time of the year. Meet with team members and ensure they have their plans in place for January and February. And yes, that's such a great thing for team often to feel super focused themselves, that they can go away on the break and feel rested themselves, that they can know, I know what I'm doing when I come back to work. I don't have to feel like I'm guessing when I come back. And especially if you're not there when they first land at the start of the year, it's great if everyone's already got some clarity on who do we want to be and what do we want to achieve in the new year. So it's been wonderful speaking with you all today. I hope this has been of value. I appreciate all of you, whether you're here live on the calls or whether you're watching the recording later. If you are, you might want to find out more about our Unleashing the Team Potential experience. So we are doing and running some planning days before the end of the year. If you're wanting to get your team focused, feel free to check out that link below. And as a number of us were just talking about, we can often feel quite a bit of stress and overwhelm at this time of the year, and we can start to feel the effects of that quite physically. And so if the new year is a time when you go, do you know what, I'm done with feeling overwhelmed. I tend to have an A-type personality and I seem to keep doing this to myself, and you'd finally like to deal with that and get your health back on track. Maybe you've been feeling quite a bit of burnout, adrenal fatigue, or any of those kind of symptoms, then let's make your January even better. So you could do some team building in December, and then in January, there will be a new round of my 10-degree shift program starting. And the 10-degree shift program is all about helping you set up a really healthy foundation and baseline for yourself so that you can make sure the year completely flows with ease, and so that you learn to work with your dear body and your mind and your spirit in a way that is holistic and whole. We can't be great leaders for other people. We can't lead our teams throughout the whole year and keep our energy going if we're not taking care of our dear vessel first. And so the 10-degree shift is all about stacking some really good, healthy habits, very teeny tiny, simple shifts that we can make to build this strong foundation so that we can have a ripper of a year, have energy right throughout the 365 days, and arrive at this time next year feeling satiated and great and still whole and healthy. So if you would like to make sure that you're kind of preloading the way you're going to tackle next year, and you'd love to feel energized and healthy, you would like to maybe shed some of those extra kilos, get rid of some of those stresses and niggly aches and pains and things like that, I'd love to see you in our 10-degree shift. So click on the link below if you're looking for more of the team building and planning and getting set up for the year. And if you'd like some more of the health and well-being, head over to my website, alexandrajoy.com.au, and there'll be information there on the 10-degree shift. Been great. Have a great festive season. May you have a beautiful, blissful rest. Much love, peace, and joy to all of you and your loved ones. Bye for now.